One time, Mom was working in the kitchen and she had things set on the table, and all at once, crash! And the butter dish was on the floor, all splattered. John, why did you do that? I didn't do that. That little baby girl did that.
Was that true?
Yeah.
I just always thought John, especially, you know, as he was growing up, what was amazing about John was he was a year younger than his peers, and he was little for a long time, but he was always Mr. Cool. Everybody liked John. He had a lot of leadership ability, and he is always well liked among his friends. He was always Mr. Cool.
He had those Lee jeans that would just barely hang on. They were always real low, and I was always so surprised that he could keep them up. And he was very athletic.
Mm-hmm.
Mom wouldn't let him play football because she thought he'd get hurt, so he played softball, had one injury after another.
Remember the one injury that he had was it was at Wapo Walters. Is that what they called Wapo Walters?
Mm.
Tom Walters, wasn't he Wapo?
Wapo.
Yes.
They were playing ball and John hit a home run, and he was so excited. He picked John up in the air and he broke his ribs. Broke a couple of ribs. And then
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say another time someone's bat broke. John was standing back. Bat broke and came and hit him in the chest and broke ribs.
That was
Okay.
He was always getting patched up, wrapped up by Mom.
Didn't it seem like that? Or stepping on nails?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, because we went barefoot most of the time.
And he had flat feet. I remember that he would come down the stairs the fast way. He would put his hand on the banister at the top and leap over and down into the hallway.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
He
gee.
was always jumping out of everything, out of trees, it's no wonder he had flat feet.
Bill, you were going to say something a while ago.
Well, I was going to mention that he was the champion ping pong player at Moore Hill.
Oh, really?
Oh, I didn't know that.
They had a ping pong table set up in the day room, and it was a new day room they had built, and he was the champion, all the guys.
Mm.
He was a great competitor.
Oh, yeah.
He was very competitive.
Well, here's a story. The boys' friends were here playing basketball, and John went out to play with them. And John was bumping into people and just using whatever license person would use. John was doing this.
Like he was NBA.
And Kevin Slattery was there, and John kept giving him wedgies. Giving him wedgies. Finally, accidentally, Kevin bumped him out into the grass. Was competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when John and I played football in the front yard, just the two of us. We had our own set of rules where we could change sides, but we had to lateral to the other guy, and then he'd run as if he was the whole team. But we had to take our turns of centering the ball and then turn around and try to catch the other one.
And you had lots of fun.
Mary Kay and I used to play you and Chuck. That wasn't very fair. In baseball, do you remember that?
No.
You and John. Mary Kay and I used to play you in baseball. I never thought that was very fair. And then when you were gone, Chuck was on his team, and they still played Mary Kay and me. But John would hit it a mile, he'd hit it long ways. We still didn't win. He'd get you on first, get Chuck on first, and then he'd hit a home run. And
Remember the poison ivy? And we all got poison ivy except John. He would go up and crumble it in his hands and everything. I suffered so much from poison ivy. Mom putting soda patch on my legs and everything, but John never got infected. Immunity.
I remember one time we were playing softball, and I think, I don't remember who was playing, but here's what I do remember. The ball used to come, and sometimes it would hit the big window in the house on the porch. We'd play in the front yard. And it would hit the window and vibrate back and forth. It never broke the window. But one time I was playing catcher, and I went for the ball, and I fell and put my hand down and brought my hand up, and I had a 2x4 attached to my wrist.
Oh my goodness.
There was a 2x4 about 6 inches long and had a nail stuck in it. And
At home plate?
I had to run in the house, and Mom put something on it. I don't remember what, but she pulled the board out.
Remember how many times we broke that window in the big closet upstairs? And Daddy got tired of fixing it, so he brought one of those tins like we put paste on to make the honey labels. And he put that in the window, and it was in there for like 20 years, I think, wasn't it?
I know.
A long time. He said he wasn't going to fix it anymore.
well, Ann and Dorothy, where are your memories of John?
Well, one thing at the church picnics, I was always looking for John because Dorothy and I wouldn't have money, or we'd have maybe a quarter or something. And I think most of the turtle races and the bingo and stuff, I think most everything was $1 or was it a nickel? I don't remember. But John you go up to John and he'd give you 50 cents. I think one time he gave me $1.
Oh my goodness.
He was very, very generous. So if John was there, I would scout him out. And I hated that John ever saw Frankenstein.
Bill too. Bill did the same thing.
Oh, I don't remember Bill, but John would do it, and he would put his arms out in front of him, and he'd bring his mouth down, and would never change expression, and would chase you all over the house, but he wouldn't run. He would lumber after you.
Frankenstein. Bill started that when our living room was down where the mom's bedroom was at last. Bill did that first. I can remember him taking me to the little couch that had the pull-out bottom, playing Frankenstein.
That came from Abbott and Costello.
Oh, it did.
And they had met Frankenstein, and somehow they ended up in a jail cell with Frankenstein.
Oh my goodness.
And there was a word that would set Frankenstein off, and little Costello kept inadvertently saying the word, and Frankenstein would perk up and say, "Oh, so slowly I turned."
That's right.
And he would stick his hands out.
Wasn't it step by step?
And step by step.
Right. And then John, another thing he would do is he would grab the little ones and by their feet and put them upside down and take them out and threaten to put their heads in the toilet. And I don't think I ever got wet, but my head would be down in the bowl.
Yes, he did that to me all the time. If he did anything, he would grab you, carry you upside down, stick your head in the toilet bowl.
This was only after indoor plumbing.
Yeah, that was a good thing.
You know the Theodore Brewer story? Theodore Brewer was the relative who come and helped Daddy with money. And you know, he was a little wiry man, wasn't he, Bill? He was probably 5'6" or something and didn't weigh much. And I don't know how often he lived with us. But anyway, one day John had this can and he ran out to where the orchard was. Came back. Mom said, John, what are you doing? I'm dumping. John, what are you dumping? Theodore's. Theodore has one. Well, we didn't have any indoor plumbing or toilet, so we used the chamber pot. Theodore used his can, and he would take it out far out south and dump it. So John wanted to be like Theodore.
So he was peeing in a can?
I don't know if he was really peeing, if he knew what Theodore had in the can or not.
Uh,
Don't know those facts.
Well, I remember John taking us out, and I think it was the four of us, Chuck and me. Oh no, it was Mary Kay and me and Chuck and John. John's big idea. We didn't have sleet all that often, but when we did, we could really sleigh ride really fast. And we went down past Spillman's. You know, we were going down that hill. So we were on Bill's old sled, Mary Kay and me. I was on top of her.
down toward
Chuck
Alden?
was on top of John, past Spillman's, you know, down that big hill.
Is it toward Colgan's trees?
Yes.
Say again?
Toward Colgan's?
Yes. And I mean, we went so fast, and I don't know how fast we were going, but we were going down that hill lickety-pert. And it was going so fast that the sled started wobbling, and pretty soon it just flipped over totally. And I said that was the second time in my life, I think it was the first time at that point, that I actually saw stars. I mean, my head hit that sleet. I mean, it was like a rock.
Well, it was
And anyway, I think John and Chuck got to the bottom. Do you remember that, Chuck? You do?
It was sleet. It was like ice.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we went past Tucker's, up over that hill and on
oh my gosh.
Boulevard.
On the Price Boulevard. My word.
Well,
How
Mary
far did
Kay
you
and
go,
I-
Charles?
All the way to Price Boulevard.
Mary Kay and I didn't get that far.
So you went down Loberman Hills.
ice.
Hell, yeah.
Could have killed ourselves.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
Mom and
remember
Daddy-
one time when John was on top of me, and it was icy like that, and we went past Colgan's, up over the hill, down Logerman Hill, all the way down to the railroad tracks.
Oh, my
Wow.
word.
Huh.
Wow.
Must have been a lot of ice.
Long walk back.
That's what I was gonna say.
Huh.
But harder walking back with the sleep though.
Exactly.
And slide.
You remember when John and Joe Vanderwey did a demonstration on making a chocolate cake? Did you know that? I think they got a blue ribbon, didn't they? At County 4-H Day.
Hmm.
But here was Joe, big, tall guy, and John, but they did it, and they were so proud of themselves.
And the lady who was judging them said, "Aren't you going to oil the sides of the pan?" You know, and Mom always taught us you don't oil the sides of the pan so the little fingers of the batter can climb up the climb up the pan. And John answered her. I think that's one reason they got a blue ribbon, because John knew to oil the sides of the cake pan.
Huh. Yeah. And he was always, wasn't it Willie, or was it Wilbur in the 4-H?
Wilbur.
I loved watching his plays.
Mary Kay, can you mute when your dogs start barking?
Or can you close
Kind
the
of
door
funny
to
around
the,
in the backyard. Every time they mow, he barks. He barks.
Wondering where it's his dog.
Dottie, what's your John story?
I don't have any when I was young. I can't remember any. But when I was down here in Corpus Christi trying to look for a job, he helped me a lot with the resume and kept encouraging me, keep looking.
Remember when John and I came down in his convertible?
Of course. Mhm.
And he let me drive part of the way, so I knew how to drive it. And when we got there, it was a moonlit night,
Uh-huh.
and Dorothy and I went out
Yeah, he
and
said,
rode around Corpus Christi in the moonlight
right.
with his it was a
Triumph?
Miata, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Was
he
it?
And we went all the way
go to the
over to
beach.
Padre Island.
right.
Just Dottie and me.
What?
Just Dottie and me.
Yeah, because he said, I've seen the beach before. I've seen the moon before. You just stayed home.
But we were sailing along the
Right.
seafront there. It was really lovely.
Did you go out to the ranch or the land?
No,
Okay.
not that time.
He
We stopped at Allen's halfway. We stayed at Allen's one night. I think we stayed that night, or did we just stop for dinner? I don't quite remember. And then went on to Dot and Wayne's.
You saw either Stephen or Mark at UT.
Stephen, yes. We were in the Miata, and Stephen, we were going to give him a ride across campus. He met us and we had lunch together. And he sat on my lap. Tall Stephen. He was way up high outside the Miata. And I should have sat on his lap because it would have been less embarrassing for him, I think.
And when we went to Ireland, he and Dorothy were the ones that stayed real even-tempered and really good companions. Remember that? Mary Kay and Teresa and I had our moments. John was really patient, and he had a good time.
Uh-huh.
He
He didn't get too excited with all his bumps on the car.
No, he
Did
didn't.
we have a flat tire one time? Or am I getting?
We had lots of stuff happen.
Yeah.
We had that big car. Remember, we lost the car I had reserved. Because
No.
instead of going and getting the car, we were trying to find Mary Kay's luggage. And by the time we got there, they had given away our car. And we had to take this big station wagon, remember? And it was
I'm
hard
glad
to
we had a
drive on
big
the
one
roads.
now. You know what I thought about too, when John worked at Miller's Grocery, how our family diet changed.
Oh, right.
Because before, ground beef went into meatloaf. We never ate hamburgers. And John came home with, remember, a chili brick.
Right. I remember.
And we started eating chili. And we loved the chili. And I don't think we ate hamburgers till Daddy bought that gas stove from Seba Morgan's that Mom hated and it had a grill in the middle. And we started fixing hamburgers. But I don't think we ate hamburgers before that. The ground beef went into meatloaf all the time. But boy, that chili was something else.
When did he work at the ice cream shop? Was that before?
I think he was in college then, wasn't he? High school at Miller's, I think.
And he worked at Montgomery Ward's too.
Right.
And who was it the janitor that was his good friend?
Mm-hmm.
That would go watch him play baseball, softball?
I think so. I
remember.
forget his name. He was a very nice man. He was there when I worked there too.
I think so.
African American.
Really liked John.
He was a janitor.
Mm-hmm.
John offered him rides home, and he would always disappear when John was coming out.
Oh,
And one time, John got hold of him and gave him a ride home.
Oh,
He just, anyway, was reluctant to do that.
Oh. What kind of car did John drive?
John had a 48 Chevy.
Okay.
The
which is-
slanted back, remember?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember what it looked like. I just didn't know what it was.
Looked kind of like a Nash.
And it had
Yep.
"I'm available" in the window.
Yes.
And I drove that with the same sticker in it. Didn't work,
He took it out though when he started dating Judy.
did he?
Yeah. And I remember somebody who used to call him Available John. He would, I think it's wherever he got gas. You know, in those days, you didn't put your gas in yourself. Somebody always put it in. I think it was Warren Hale. What was his name?
Warren.
O'Neill.
Warren Hale. You called him Available John.
Hmm.
He
I
came to John's
mentioned
wedding.
You
Warren,
mentioned Judy.
anyway,
What'd you say, Chuck?
I
Yeah,
said
Chuck.
Warren came to John's wedding.
Oh, really?
Hmm. You mentioned Judy. You've heard the pie story, haven't you? They were going back to Emporia and they on the turnpike, and they got to the gate and they had no money. So they asked the clerk, "Will you take a piece of pie?" Because Mom gave them a pie to take back. So the clerk took a piece of pie for their toll.
I think they had just enough money and got off, and then the money fell down in the door.
That's right. Hmm.
So he was short money. He was handing it and it fell down in the window.
Oh. Hmm. So the pie made up the difference.
Hmm.
Did they take the pie?
Yes.
He gave him a piece, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I gave a piece of pie.
Mhm.
Okay, here's a question. What kind of pie was it?
Peach.
Apple
no
or cherry or peach.
Mm.
Well,
Oh, here-
John and Bill both, I remember working with them, picking peaches in the orchard. And they would always throw peaches at you.
Oh,
Or working in the garden. Both of them
Throwing
were terrible
clods.
at that. Throwing clods. I mean, you'd be working away and a bunch of clod would hit you. And as soon as Mom left, I mean, there was no discipline anymore. And they would just start throwing clods. And it was very annoying, of
I
course.
think baby brother learned that very well.
Yeah, Chuck learned from the masters.
They made me do it. They made me do it.
Yeah, right.
Only I don't think Mom got after little Chuck.
No, it was
I
little
think-
baby Chuck.
I think Dorothy and I just had to dodge.
Mom liked the boys. She was very Irish in that. Loved
She did
the
like the
boys.
boys.
Here's a
Took care
story.
of them. She took good care of John. Do you remember being taken care of, Bill?
What's that?
Did Mom take care of you?
In what way?
Well, she'd always take care of John and Chuck. You know, she was like the Irish
Oh,
mothers who think
I
their
see,
sons
to
are God.
protect us.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember one time at 4-H, my mom got so hopping mad she could have shot the governor. We had a 4-H judging contest of beef on the hoof.
Right.
I don't know if you remember that story or not, but Uncle Bill would take me around the different pastures and look at the beef, and he'd tell me what to look for good quality beef. Well, with that background, I won the judging contest at the 4-H judging at the fair. And the county agent, a couple other guys got over together and started mumbling. And they didn't give it to me. They said, "That little kid doesn't know anything." They gave it to one of the rich farmers out there that had cattle. And Mom found out about it. And she was so pissed. She lit into the county agent something terrible.
That was
Yeah.
Vetter. That was Feder, wasn't it?
Yeah, C.W. Better.
That was better. I think so.
Hmm.
But it didn't change his mind.
That was later.
Didn't change his mind.
Hmm.
So they
It
thought it
didn't
was
bother me much. I was used to being picked on, I guess.
Hmm. And John used to go stay at the, he used to sleep with his steer, didn't he? At the county fair with Bucky?
Mhm.
Yes. They'd sleep in the barn.
And
you
Mom
did-
wouldn't let me. George was there too, George and Bucky were there together. And Mom wouldn't let me stay in the stalls, so I had to get a room
Oh.
with a woman
Hmm.
who was there.
I guess it was only 1 year because they didn't last 2 years, did they?
Who's they?
Bucky and George?
No, it was just 1 year.
Yeah.
Then they went to market.
Mhm.
They called it baby beef.
Hmm.
I don't know why they called it baby beef category. Maybe because they were young, But Bucky was he was the better calf. And but he got to the fair and that was John's calf. And he was traumatized being at the fair, and he wouldn't eat and wouldn't drink much.
Mhm.
He would drink, I think he wouldn't eat. He just didn't have an appetite, and he got kind of gaunt, and so he lost weight, and he wasn't able to show him that well. And we had practiced how to show them. George always had a sway back.
Mhm.
And Bucky was just so straight along the top. That's always one thing you look for, straight along the back. And when we would show them, it was, you could put your knee under their belly and hold their back up, hold their belly up. And that's the way I showed him. So I did it. John complimented me later about how well I showed George. Because that was the thing we were always worried about, was his back was going to sway and he would never take a high prize.
Mhm.
So I got the highest red. I almost made a blue with George.
Wow.
Ah,
Mhm.
And poor Bucky got a white because he was so,
Mhm.
he got so thin. And so Bucky was glad to be back home.
Mhm.
George could care less. He ate, he drank, he was more laid back.
he didn't need his mistress next to him.
Yeah.
John had 2 Hereford heifers in Columbia, and he gave them to me.
What
And
did he have?
Also, but I can't remember the name.
What did he have in Columbia?
2 Hereford heifers,
Oh, okay.
and he gave those to me. We had them up here on the farm for some time,
Hmm.
but
He
they
gave
had names, and I can't recall the names.
Mhm.
Maybe the kids will.
And he gave you the ponies too.
Had the ponies up here for a while, yes. Mary Kay,
Yes.
what about you and me in the sled?
Oh my gosh. Down in front of the old barn, Daddy had the wheels and everything for the hay wagon, and he also had it for the box wagon, that you could put grain in and everything. And it set up on some rocks. One night, Chuck and I went down the hill toward the barn.
I'm on top.
Oh, on a
Chuck's on
sled?
top.
Okay, on a sled.
Lost control, turning the corner, going out to the road. We go down the middle road and turn and go out and go down. Well, did we hit it, Chuck?
I
And
went
you-
on top of it, you went under it.
Yeah, I went under it and Chuck went over the top.
Jeez.
Could have been knocked unconscious or hurt real bad.
Mhm.
Your guardian angels were at work.
Therese, do you remember the sled incident with you and me? We were coming down the hill by the pond,
Oh, yes.
and they had put
Yes.
up a barbed wire fence around the pond. And I buried my head into Therese's back, got to the bottom, and my stocking hat was shaking on the fence.
Jeez.
we had close calls here on the farm. Oh, another. You remember the barbed wire fence that was put across the pathway down to the barn? And what happened with John?
Right.
You forgot it was there?
It was after dark, I guess, and he went running down the hill and it just clotheslined him. He had little scars on his neck from that, having him.
Okay. I remember one time, and then John and I went over on the other pasture where the peach orchard was, and this was before the peach orchard. There was a line of trees along Mary Graves, along the fence line. And John and I John was pretty small there because it really thrilled him to death what we did, because he talked many times afterwards. But we climbed up in the elm trees, and they were not very big. They were spindly, and we found out we could make them sway back and forth. So we'd get up high enough so that they would bend, and we'd swing back and forth.
I remember you guys doing that.
I remember that tree. It was there a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you remember the night that John decided, well, he wanted a crow. He had read that if you split
No, Daddy's
of a
story.
crow, if you split the tongue of a crow, it will learn to speak. So he was going to get a crow. So one night, it was dark. We all took off and to go over to look for a crow. And he was going to climb one of the trees and get into one of the nests and get a crow. So we were all over there. Was that the night he got stuck in the crook of the tree?
Yes. He saw the crow's nest up on the tree. Remember, Bill was there.
Bill, do you remember that?
I don't remember that. I remember the story about the crow, of course, and I think our dad had one, and he told about it talking. But, you know, I don't know if that was one of his stories or it really happened.
Well, John climbed up the tree, and somehow he wasn't making it. He fell back down and got caught between these two big branches. It was like two trees stuck together. And we push his foot, pull his foot. We couldn't do it. We were scared to go tell Daddy John was stuck in the tree. So Bill said, "Go on across and get Jack Kirkham to come and get us." So Teresa and I were walking up the hill toward Mary Graves' pasture, and all at once they yelled, "We're free! We're free!" Somehow they got John out.
I must have been Jack Chapman.
Was it Jack Chapman? Yeah. He was nicer than Jack Kirkham to us. I'm more friendly to kids.
Did Jack work for Mary Graves?
No, he lived where Cafferty's lived.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
Brendan was telling a story the other night about when the cousins were up in the tree in the corner, and they had been doing it for years, and they thought that they knew every way to get up there. And he said John came out and swung up in the tree, and they said they didn't know how in the world he did it. But he had years and years of history of doing that.
Well, I can give more information on that.
Brendan did too, but I didn't share.
No, John, who was in his mid-50s, leapt up there, and we were all surprised as you could only believe. Just like 2 steps and he was in there, and all of a sudden we're like, ah.
Oh, he scared you. You didn't know he was coming.
Well, he was defending his grandson.
How
Daniel was small and couldn't get up, isn't that right?
Oh.
Yeah, and the bigger boys were making fun of him because he couldn't get up. And then John heard about it and came to his defense.
No,
he
I
knocked
see.
him out of the tree, did he?
Oh, it was amazing. I still have never seen anything like it.
That's what Brendan said.
He was motivated.
Yep.
Remember how Camp St. Bar boys would sit on the bank walking from the camp back to Mar Hill, and they'd be tired. They'd sit on our bank. I don't know why they picked our bank. I guess it was the most resting bank in the neighborhood. And we would be up in the tree listening to them.
Mhm.
Remember that? Them talking.
One night when it was raining terribly, I don't know why they decided to run those boys home. It was raining and lightning, and it was just awful, awful storm. And a bunch of them came into our house because they wanted shelter. Do any of you remember that?
Yes.
They came in, they were sitting in the dining room and they were so wet.
Poor little
And that-
boys.
And that was when our cousin was there, Larry Ebling
Yeah.
was one of them, but he wasn't in this group. But I think of how easily they could have been struck by lightning out there in the
Right.
walking on that road.
Mm.